Chapter 2. The Strange Castle. Just as the wolves were closing in, Jonathan heard the carriage driver approaching. The man ordered the wolves back. He shouted and waved his arms. They obeyed his command and slunk away from the carriage. This incident was so frightening that Jonathan shook with fear as the carriage continued into the mountains. On and on they went, climbing ever upward. Jonathan must have fallen asleep. The next thing he knew, they had stopped in a courtyard, before a massive stone building. Jonathan again felt the driver's icy grip as the man helped him down from the carriage. Then the strange man led the horses through an archway and was gone. Jonathan stood there alone in the gloom. Is this a dream? Jonathan asked himself. What kind of strange adventure have I gotten into? There's no knocker on this door. Will I have to wait here till morning? Suddenly, with a rattling of chains and a loud grating, the nail-studded door of the castle swung back. A tall old man dressed all in black stood staring at him. "Welcome to my house," he said. "Enter freely, and of your own will." When Jonathan stepped inside, the man grasped his hand with a hand that was cold as ice. The hand of a dead man. The grip was terribly strong, just like that of the carriage driver. "Count Dracula?" Jonathan asked. "Yes, I am Dracula. I bid you welcome, Mr. Harker." The Count carried Jonathan's bags himself. A few minutes later, Jonathan sat down to a roast chicken and salad. The Count did not eat. He said he had his supper already, but sat and asked Jonathan many questions about his trip. During the supper, Jonathan had a chance to study the Count's looks. The high forehead, the massive eyebrows that nearly met over his nose. His sharp teeth stuck out over his very red lips. His ears were pointed, his skin very pale. The Count's hands were most unusual, thick and with hair growing on the palms. The fingernails were long and pointed. When one of them reached out to touch him, Jonathan felt a little sick. Out the window, Jonathan saw the first streak of dawn. Everything was very still. But from the valley below came the sound of many wolves howling. The Count's eyes gleamed, and he whispered, "Listen to them. They are the children of the night. What music they make." With that, he bid Jonathan good night and left him alone to wonder about all the strange things that had happened. When he awoke late in the day, Jonathan found his breakfast waiting, and a note from the Count saying he had to be out. Everything in the castle was very luxurious. The plates were pure gold, but very old. Strangely, there was not a mirror to be seen anywhere, not even in the bathroom. Nor were there any of the servants that would be expected in a big castle. Jonathan felt all alone. He spent the time till evening in the Count's library. He found many books on England. Finally, the Count joined him. "I have read all about your country," the Count said. "I hope you can teach me to speak your language." "But Count, you speak English very well," Jonathan replied. "Not so. I know that everyone in London would consider me a stranger. When I move there, I want to fit in, like everyone else." "I understand," Jonathan said. "Different countries have different customs," the Count went on. "We are in Transylvania now, not England. You may find things strange here, but tell me all about my new house." "The estate is called Carfax," Jonathan said, showing the Count the papers for the purchase. "It has a deep, dark-looking pond, a large, very old house, and an abandoned chapel. There are only a few houses nearby. I should mention that one of them has been turned into a private lunatic asylum, but you can't see it from your house." "I am glad the house is old," the Count said. "I could not stand a new house. I am glad, too, to hear of the chapel. That means a graveyard. I like places that are gloomy. I wish to be alone with my thoughts." Again, the Count did not join Jonathan at supper, but afterward they talked for many hours. When a rooster crowed to announce the dawn, the Count jumped to his feet. Your conversation about England is too interesting, the Count said. I forgot how time flies. I must let you get to bed, he added. Jonathan slept for a few hours. When he awoke, he began to shave, using a small mirror he brought with him. Suddenly, he felt a hand on his shoulder. Startled, he spun around. It was Dracula. Good morning, the Count said. What amazed Jonathan was that he hadn't seen the Count approach. He looked in the mirror again. It was true. The Count's image did not appear in the glass, even though he stood right in front of it. Jonathan was so startled, he cut himself a little with his razor. When the Count saw the trickle of blood that ran down his neck, his eyes blazed with fury. He grabbed for Jonathan's throat, but his hand accidentally touched the crucifix that the old woman at the hotel had around Jonathan's neck. He immediately calmed down. Take care not to cut yourself in this country, Dracula warned. It is dangerous. And you don't need this. Away with it. He took Jonathan's mirror and flung it out the window. It shattered into 1,000 pieces on the ground below. Jonathan again went in to breakfast alone. He had not yet seen the Count eat or drink. A strange man, Jonathan thought, yet again. When he finished, Jonathan explored the castle a little. He found that the building stood on the edge of a steep cliff. On 3 sides, a stone thrown from a window would drop 1,000 feet. Beyond, he could see nothing but empty woods. But he soon discovered something else. All the doors to the outside were locked. The castle was a prison, and he was the prisoner. When he went back to his room, Jonathan found the Count making his bed. Then he knew that what he suspected was true. There were no servants in the castle. He was alone with Dracula. In fact, Dracula must have been the driver of the carriage, who had been able to control the wild wolves with his command. He felt that he was in grave danger. He was glad that the old lady had made him wear the crucifix. It seemed to have the power to protect him. That night, Dracula described ancient wars as if he had fought in them himself. He told stories of how his people had won great and bloody battles. But the warlike days are over, he said. Blood is too precious a thing today. Just then the dawn was breaking, and the Count hurried off to bed, as he did every day. Jonathan spent the day studying books in the library. In the evening, the Count came to him with many legal matters to discuss. I may want to ship some goods to a port in England, he said. I would need a lawyer to claim them. We could arrange that with lawyers we know, Jonathan suggested. Now I would like you to write your employer, the Count said, and to your friends to let them know you are staying with me for a month. So long? Jonathan asked, his heart growing cold. I will take no refusal, the Count said. Jonathan could only agree. His employer, Mr. Hawkins, had asked him to do whatever he could for the Count. Don't talk about anything but business in your letters, the Count warned. Tell them you are well, and looking forward to seeing them. That's all. Dracula smiled as he handed Jonathan the writing paper. 2 of the Count's sharp upper teeth hung down over his lower lip, like fangs. Jonathan thought with a shudder. Before he left Jonathan alone, the Count said that he would be busy that night, and that they would not be able to have their usual talk. I must warn you, he said, that you should not sleep anywhere in the castle except in your own room. You might have nightmares. Jonathan wondered if nightmares could be any worse than being locked in this strange castle. That night he left his room and went to a staircase window where he could look out. Just then he saw a movement. It came from the window of the Count's own room. Jonathan drew back in, then carefully looked out again. The Count was coming out. Jonathan could not see his face, but he recognized him. And the Count's hands. Certainly he could not mistake those. Jonathan was amazed. The Count slowly came out of the window and began to crawl down, his face toward the castle wall. His black cloak spread out like wings. Jonathan couldn't believe his eyes. It must be a trick of the moonlight, Jonathan thought. Some weird effect of shadow. But it was true. Dracula was clinging to the cracks in the stones. He was climbing down the wall like a lizard.